Hey, what is up guys? This is Nishi from MST.TV here, back with another Market Watch episode. Today we're continuing our look at some interesting cards that are popping up because they're useful in certain meta-relevant decks. Naturally, there's a lot of interesting trends popping up, especially because of how open this format is. And of course, we have people looking at techs and trends in the OCG, and those things naturally influence what people try to do here as well. Before we jump into it, guys, I do want to briefly mention that you guys should be checking out MSTmerch.com. We just launched our summer sale over there, and we have discounts now on the bundles of our white sleeves, black sleeves, and oversleeves. Everything's cheaper for just a limited time, so make sure that you guys check it out. But for now, let's get into today's Market Watch. Alright, first up we're looking at Fateful Adventure. So the Adventurer token package hasn't seen much play recently. It pops up every now and then in the odd deck. I think we saw it in things like Plunder Patrol at certain points, but it hasn't really seen much success in top tier strategies over the last year or so. However, with Battles of Legend coming out next weekend, key cards for the Adventurer token package in Rite of a Ramazir and Water Enchantress are getting more accessible printings, which will encourage more players to pick up the engine and give it a try. However, Fateful Adventure is actually the one piece of the engine that didn't get a reprint despite being a key piece of the strategy. This is what lets you search for Draco back as well as Griffin Rider, so it's certainly important for what the engine is trying to accomplish. However, the card is just a one-of. Before, we saw this card at only $1 or $2 each. However, now that everything else is reprinted and everyone is scrambling to pick up their copy of Fateful Adventure in order to complete their packages, it's now sitting at $10 per copy. Fortunately, I think you still just need to pick up one copy of this card. Anything more than that is probably going to be overkill. Now, to be fair, we could see Adventure reprinted in an OTS pack or something like that, but it's definitely just not guaranteed. If you still need this card, I think it's fine to pick it up for $10, since you only need one and you probably have the rest of the Adventurer token reprints for relatively cheap anyways. However, if you did open a bunch of Grand Creators hunting for those other good pieces, it's worth noting that this card is expensive now, and you guys can take advantage of the hype by offloading this card this upcoming weekend when people are cracking open boxes, because people will certainly need Fateful Adventure in order to complete their Adventurer package core. Next up, I think that Red Eye's Dark Dragoon is a card we should be talking about. We all know what this card is, a really scary extra deck boss monster that can't be targeted or destroyed by card effects, and provides an Omni Negate by discarding a card as well. This card used to be one of the most feared cards in the entire game, and while it was legal in the OCG, it was played in everything, so they actually just banned the card. Now here in the TCG, Dragoon is perfectly fine, even though we do now have Verte Anaconda banned. And I think sometimes it even comes across as just not being that great of a card anymore. However, I know that a lot of players are really hyped to try out Dragoon in branded Despio once again because of the new card coming out in Battles of Legend called Duality. Duality basically lets you cheat out a dark or light monster from your extra deck, so you can make Gragonol and then use Duality to turn it into a Dragoon. This provides you with an Omni Negate, so you can better play around something like Nibiru, or better yet, use Dragoon to negate an Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring in order to ensure that your branded fusion can resolve. I don't know if this is the most consistent way to play branded, especially since Duality isn't a card that can be searched, but it certainly seems like a really interesting line of play. Anyways, Dragoon does have two different printings, each of which are from the Megatins, and either copy is going to cost you around $15 to $17 each. I don't know, to me this feels like a really low price point for a card that has so much potential and with such limited availability, but then again I'm not sure just how practical it is to use the card in today's game. If you can grab the card for around $15, I think that at that price, it's a card you should definitely own a couple copies of, just in case it starts to pick up in meta play, because the card definitely has room to increase in price further. The next card is Sky Striker Maneuver Afterburners, a card that we've talked about a couple of times on Market Watch before. So between Engage going back to 2 and the release of Linkage and Azalea, Sky Strikers might be in a spot where they can perform decently within the meta. They may not be top tier anymore, especially with a lot of people main decking Kaijus, but they can probably still take top spots at locals or regionals somewhat consistently. Afterburners is one of the important forms of spot removal for Sky Strikers, destroying an opponent's face-up monster, and potentially destroying an opponent's spell or trap card if you have enough spells in your graveyard. Oddly enough, while cards like Widow Anchor, Engage, and Shark Cannon have all seen several reprints, Afterburners is the piece that only has 3 different printings. the original from Dark Saviors, and then the Ultra from Battles of Legend and Super Rare from the Megatins. Because of this, the secrets, which were short printed, are now up to around $20 per copy, while the Ultras and Supers are still around $6 each. Nothing too crazy, but they were only a couple of dollars before for the cheaper printings, so this is a price jump that's worth paying attention to. For the most part, I think that you only play 1 or 2 copies of the card, but Sky Strikers are definitely one of the more popular waifu decks in the game, and there will certainly be a lot of players that want to pick up Afterburners in order to complete their cores. If you have a few, keep them in your binder for locals the next couple of weekends, and see if you can trade them while they are hyped and worth something. Okay, so this is a bit of a random one that I want us to be keeping an eye on. It's my Dolce and Jelly. So my Dolces haven't been too popular recently. I think they can't do as much as a lot of other decks, so that's why they haven't been seeing much in terms of competitive success. However, I think that the deck might be an interesting one moving forward. The Verniself cards help to make the deck much more consistent. Since the Madolches are all Earth monsters, and Orange Light going to 2 means that the deck actually has access to a couple of free negates. In fact, the deck actually took 2nd place at Serbian Nationals a couple of weekends ago, and while it may have been a bit of a fluke or there may have been some luck involved, I think it's still a performance worth noting. On top of that, Madolches are going to be a popular archetype always, with a lot of casual players because of how cute the cards are, so they're the sort of cards that you should always keep an eye on. I remember when Secret Rare Angelis first came out, they were only $1 or so, but now you're looking at $5 for either the Secret or Ultra Rare version of Angeli. If you opened up some Battles of Legend Armageddon, this is a card that you guys should be making sure that you set aside from your bulk, as well as other cards from the archetype you may have lying around, such as Magellan. You should probably also set aside Ultra Tiara Misus from Monstrous Revenge when you do pull them over the next couple of weeks, just in case. The archetype will always find a way to be popular, and it will definitely get more support in the future. It's just a question of when, so make sure that you set aside all of the relevant cards wherever possible. Alright, so this one was pretty shocking to see, but Rescue Ace Hydrant is one heck of a card. Here in the TCG, Rescue Ace hasn't done a thing, but in the OCG it's a very different story. With the new support in Duelist Nexus, this deck is now actually a tier 1 strategy in the OCG. The deck itself is really strong and actually looks really cool, though of course we are due for a ban list in the OCG pretty soon that could definitely shake things up. However, it is unlikely that Rescue Ace really gets hit, so it could definitely continue to be top tier. Hydrant is a key 3-of for the deck, allowing you to, once per turn, activate a quick play spell or trap card that was set by a Rescue Ace card effect during the turn it was set. Rescue Ace has a big boss monster called Turbulence that sets 4 spell or traps from the deck, so Hydrant actually helps the deck to make use of this card advantage to outpace the opponent. It was certainly unexpected that Rescue Ace would perform so well. I remember when Amazing Defenders first came out, this was looking like such a bad archetype, so it definitely makes sense that we've seen yet another jump in the price of Hydrant. I remember before when this was like a $6 to $7 ultra rare. Now for the Ultras, you're looking at between $25 and $30 per copy on TCG Player, with copies actually moving at that price. While for the collector's rares, you're now looking at having to pay $90 each, though we haven't seen any copies moving for more than around $80. This is a brand new archetype, and we don't even have all of the cards for the deck available yet here in the TCG, so I'm definitely going to reason here that this card and maybe the entire archetype is overhyped for now, just an overreaction to the post on Road of the King that details the top decks of the format. The game is really different from over in the OCG, so I think maybe the deck won't be as strong here. Either way, definitely wait a few weeks for the prices to cool down before grabbing this card. It should fall back down to around the $20 mark, unless the deck suddenly becomes tier 0 out of nowhere. So this is an odd little card. It is the Phantom Knights of Silent Boots. So this card is actually part of a strange combo that some new Kashtira builds are trying. A good friend of mine, Daniel, actually let me know about this combo a few weeks ago, so big shout out to him. The idea is that you play 1 copy of Silent Boots and 1 of the rank up magic in Kashtira. You use Dracosack to summon 2 tokens out, use the tokens to make Cherubini, use Cherubini to dump Silent Boots, banish Boots to search for the rank up magic. Then you make Volopharnigus, a generic rank 7 monster that's able to detach 2 materials from itself, and you turn that into a Kali Yuga during your opponent's turn to freeze their entire board. So all in all, you are taking up 2 more extra deck slots, and you're running a couple of bricks in the main deck as well. overall, like, I think the combo's okay. I feel like there's definitely more consistent ways to run Kashtira that aren't so gimmicky, but it's cute if you are able to pull it off at like a locals or something like that. Anyways, Silent Boots has a bunch of different printings, but the secrets are the nicest by far, and surprisingly they are only around $3 each still. Personally, I try to pick up the secret rare Phantom Knight cards whenever I see them in anyone's binder. I just feel like they're really cheap for what they are, and they're bound to eventually be good again. For now though, be aware of the intended application of this card within the current format regardless of how limited it is, and if you do have some lower rarity copies that you can throw into your binder and move for actual value within the next couple of weeks, that's definitely something that I would consider doing. And finally, the last card we're looking at for today is Chimera. So Watt's happened to get a couple of new support cards revealed to be coming in Age of Overlord, the core set following Duelist Nexus. The support is interesting. It's definitely not enough to make the strategy top tier, but it allows the deck to make a couple of really interesting plays. Watts are the sort of deck that will never really be able to play in today's game because of the way that they intend to be played, but the card designs are really cool and they can do some cute combos. Chimera is a level 6 monster that can only be made with a Watt tuner and Thunder non-tuners, but it can attack directly, and when it inflicts damage, your opponent puts a card from their hand to the top of their deck, putting them down a resource going into next turn. It's certainly not game-breaking, but the thing about Watts is that most of their cards come out in low rarity, so when it comes to what cards you could possibly buy out after new Watt support is released, there's not really many valid options outside of Chimera, so people went ahead and they just bought a bunch of the cheap versions and made them expensive and are hoping to flip them. Now, to be fair, I think the new synchro helps to facilitate making this card, but yeah, overall, I just don't think the support is enough. But for Chimera, while the card was a pretty budget card in the past, you're now looking at having to pay $25 for an ultimate rare copy, or a crazy $10 to $15 for the ultra rare, which is just ridiculous. But yeah, this is another case of a card spiking, because it's an old ultra or ultimate rare with limited availability that people are trying to buy out, so I would definitely recommend offloading this card if you can actually find someone who's willing to pay up for it. Alright guys, that is all we have for today. I actually feel like this market has been a little slow recently, which is odd, especially following such a huge ban list, but this week should shake things up a bit. I'm really excited for Battles of Legend. I'm planning on going with some friends to our local OTS the day that it comes out to crack open some packs. I hope that you guys also have good luck and pull a ton of the quarter century secret rares. Just a reminder, if you guys haven't already, do check out that summer sale over on MSTmerch.com. The prices won't stay this low forever, so make sure that you guys grab your stuff while you still can. Anyways, guys, if you did enjoy today's Market Watch episode, please make sure that you let me know by hitting that thumbs up button. Also, make sure you leave a comment in the comment section down below and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And until next time, guys, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV.